The great hall of Kepler Station buzzed with quiet conversation. Hundreds of species had built this place together over many years. The walls were made of crystal that caught light from 3 different suns. Everything here was designed to make visitors feel calm and peaceful. Jake Morrison sat at the human table looking around the room. He had been to many meetings like this one, but something felt different today. His dark hair was starting to show gray at the edges, and his eyes had the tired look of someone who had seen too many wars. Next to him, Colonel Lisa Hayes checked her tablet for the 3rd time. She was younger than Jake, with short brown hair and quick hands that never stopped moving. Her military uniform was perfectly clean, but she kept touching the small scar on her left cheek. It was something she did when she was thinking hard. Dr. Peter Yang sat on Jake's other side, reading through files on his screen. He was the kind of man who noticed everything but said very little. His job was to understand how different alien species thought and acted. Today he seemed more interested in his data than in the aliens sitting across from them. The room grew quiet as Mediator Veltar walked to the center platform. Veltar belonged to a species that looked like tall, thin trees with silver bark. When they spoke, their voice sounded like wind through leaves. "We gather today to solve the dispute between the Zelthak Empire and the Nordian Republic," Veltar said. 3 star systems are claimed by both sides. Many ships have been lost. Many lives have been taken. The Galactic Council asks for peace. Jake watched as the alien representative stood up. Commander Zexhai of the Zelthak Empire was covered in thick blue scales. When he moved, the scales made a soft scraping sound. His eyes were bright yellow and never seemed to blink. "The Zelthak Empire has mined these systems for over 2,000 years, Zexhai said. His voice was deep and rough. "Our ancestors died to claim these worlds. Our children will inherit them. The Nordians are thieves who want to steal what is ours." Counselor, Thranyi of the Nordian Republic was very different. Her people looked almost human, but their skin was pale blue and they had 4 arms instead of 2. She used all 4 hands when she talked, making shapes in the air. "The Nordians settled these systems first," Thranyi said. Her voice was high and musical. "Our cities were built before the Zelthak even knew these stars existed. We have records. We have proof. The Zelthak are invaders who murder our people and steal our homes." Jake had heard arguments like this many times before. Both sides always had proof. Both sides always had history. Both sides always had dead people to remember. Other species around the room nodded and took notes. The Galactic Council had ways of solving problems like this. They would look at old records. They would count ships and weapons. They would make deals and trade favors. Usually it worked, but Jake was not thinking about old records or trade deals. He was thinking about the report Dr. Yang had shown him 3 days ago, the report that changed everything. "The human delegation will now present their mediation proposal," Veltar said. Jake stood up slowly. The room became very quiet. Everyone knew that humans were good at solving impossible problems. Human negotiators had ended wars that other species thought would last forever. Lisa Hayes looked up at him with worry in her eyes. Peter Yang closed his tablet and waited. Jake picked up his papers and files. He put them into his bag. He closed the bag and picked it up. "We withdraw from these negotiations," Jake said. His voice was calm and clear. "This matter will resolve itself naturally." The silence that followed was complete. Jake could hear the soft hum of the station's air systems. He could hear someone's breathing across the room. Commander Zexhai's yellow eyes went wide. "What do you mean, withdraw?" Counselor Threnyi's 4 hands stopped moving. "Humans do not withdraw from peace talks. This is not how you do things." Jake did not answer. He walked toward the door. Lisa Hayes and Peter Yang followed him, their faces showing no emotion. "Ambassador Morrison," Veltar's voice sounded confused. "In 3,000 years of council history, no mediating species had ever walked away from active negotiations. Please, explain your decision." Jake stopped at the door. He turned back to look at the room full of confused aliens. "There is nothing to explain," he said. "Good day." The 3 humans left the chamber. Behind them, voices began to rise. Zexai was shouting something in his own language. Threnyi was demanding answers. Other species were talking all at once. In the hallway outside, Lisa Hayes grabbed Jake's arm. "Sir, what just happened in there?" she asked. "We did what we had to do," Jake said. "But the Council will be furious," Lisa said. "Earth Command will want explanations. The President will have questions." "Let them have questions," Jake said. Peter Yang was quiet as they walked to their ship, but Jake could see the small smile on his face. Peter understood. He had read the same report. Back in the chamber, Mediator Veltar tried to restore order, but the alien representatives were not listening anymore. They were staring at the door where the humans had gone. "In 3,000 years, Veltar said to no one in particular, "this has never happened." Commander Zexai stood up from his table. "The humans know something. They always know something. Why else would they leave?" Counselor Threnyi was thinking the same thing. Human military analysts are never wrong about conflicts. If they see no point in peace talks, the room began to empty as delegates rushed to contact their governments. Within an hour, emergency sessions were being called across the galaxy. On their ship, Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair and looked out at the stars. Lisa Hayes was at the communications station, watching as message after message came in from Earth, from the Council, from military commands across human space. "Sir," she said, "Admiral Sullivan is demanding an immediate explanation. The Council is calling emergency sessions. Half the galaxy wants to know what we're doing." Jake nodded. "Let them wonder." "But sir," Lisa pressed, "they're going to panic. When humans walk away from peace talks, other species think something terrible is about to happen." "Something terrible was about to happen," Jake said. "We stopped it." Peter Yang looked up from his datapad. "The first reports are coming in. Both sides are pulling their fleets back from the disputed systems. They think we know about some kind of threat." Jake smiled for the first time in days. "We do know about a threat. The threat of a pointless war over worthless territory." Lisa Hayes looked confused. "Sir, those systems have valuable mining rights. Both sides have been fighting over them for years." "Have you read Dr. Yang's stellar analysis report?" Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. "You should," Jake said. "It makes for very interesting reading." Across the galaxy, panic was beginning to spread. Military commands were sending coded messages. Intelligence agencies were looking for signs of unknown threats. The question was being asked in every language on every world: what do the humans know that we don't? Jake Morrison leaned back in his chair and watched the stars. Sometimes, he thought, the best way to solve a problem was to let everyone else figure out there was no problem to solve. The humans had walked out of peace talks, and the galaxy was about to learn something very important about the way humans thought about time, about war, and about the future. The news traveled faster than light itself. Within 6 hours of the humans walking out, every major news network in the galaxy was running the same story. The headlines were all similar: humans abandon peace talks, and mysterious human withdrawal, and what do they know? On Centauri Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council, Chancellor Colvin sat in his private office reading reports. His species looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs. His fur was silver with age, and his green eyes moved quickly as he read each message. "Sir," his aide came into the room carrying more files. "We have responses from 47 council members. They all want to know the same thing: what the humans are planning," Colvin said without looking up. "Yes, sir. The military commands are asking if they should prepare for conflict." Colvin set down the reports. In all his years as Chancellor, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were known throughout the galaxy for their skill at solving conflicts. They had ended wars that had lasted for centuries. They had brought peace to systems that everyone thought were hopeless, and they never ever walked away from negotiations. "Get me a direct line to Ambassador Morrison," Colvin said. "Sir, we have been trying for the past 4 hours. The human ship is not responding to official channels." Colvin's tail twitched, which meant he was angry. "What about Earth Command?" "They say they are looking into the matter." "They say they are looking into the matter." Colvin repeated. Their own ambassador walks out of peace talks and they are looking into the matter. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening in government buildings and military bases. On the water world of Aquarius 7, Fleet Admiral Grixtal was meeting with his war council. His people lived underwater and needed special suits to survive in air. The suit made his voice sound like bubbles popping. The humans have the best military intelligence in known space, he said to his officers. Their predictions about conflicts are correct 97% of the time. If they walked away from peace talks, they know something we do not. What could they know? Asked his second-in-command. That is what frightens me, Admiral Grixtal said. Meanwhile, aboard the human ship UES Constitution, Jake Morrison was dealing with his own problems. The communications board was lit up like a celebration. Messages were coming in from everywhere. Sir, Lisa Hayes said from her station, Admiral Sullivan is threatening to court-martial you if you do not respond immediately. What else is new? Jake asked. The President's office has called 6 times, the Secretary of Defense twice. Oh, and the Galactic Council's Supreme Mediator wants to meet with you personally. Jake looked at Peter Yang, who was sitting quietly at his science station. Doctor, what are you seeing in the intelligence reports? Peter looked up from his screen. Military movements across 7 sectors. The Zelthak Empire has recalled all ships from the disputed systems. The Nordian Republic has done the same. Recalled them? Lisa asked. Why would they do that? Because they think we know about an invasion force, Peter said, or a plague, or some kind of natural disaster. They cannot imagine any other reason why we would walk away. Jake nodded. What else? The Rigel Defense Force has gone to high alert. The Tau Ceti colonies are asking for additional protection. 3 different species have requested emergency military aid from their allies. Lisa Hayes stared at her communications panel. Sir, half the galaxy thinks we are about to be invaded by something terrible. And the other half thinks we are planning to invade someone, Jake said. On the Zelthak homeworld, Commander Zexhai was having an urgent meeting with the Empire's High Command. The room was hot and filled with steam, which is how his people liked it. His scales were darker now, which meant he was worried. The humans saw something, he said to the other commanders, something that made them believe peace talks were pointless. What could they have seen? Asked General Kexmore, whose scales were bright red with anger. An outside threat, Zexhai said. Something that would make our conflict with the Nordians seem small and unimportant. The humans have access to intelligence networks we do not, added Admiral Texhai. If they detected signs of an invasion fleet or a hostile species, they would not waste time on our territorial dispute. General Kexmore stood up, which made him over 3 meters tall. I am ordering all fleets to return to defensive positions. If the humans are right about a threat, we need to be ready. On Nordian Prime, Councillor Threnyi was having a very similar conversation with her own people. The Nordian government met in a building made of blue crystal that rang like bells when the wind touched it. The humans do not make mistakes about military matters, she said to the assembled council. Her forearms moved in complex patterns as she spoke. If they walked away from negotiations, they had a very good reason. Perhaps they detected enemy scout ships, suggested Councillor Brenko. Or signs of a plague that could spread through space, said another. Or they discovered that both of our species are about to face a common enemy, Threnyi said. Something so dangerous that our little war would be forgotten. The council voted unanimously to recall their fleets and fortify their home systems. Back on the UES Constitution, Jake Morrison finally decided to take one call. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on the main screen. She had short gray hair and the kind of eyes that could see through lies. Jake, she said, what in the hell are you doing out there? My job, Jake replied. Your job is to mediate peace between the Zelthak and the Nordians, not to walk away and cause a galaxy-wide panic. Kate, how long have we known each other? Admiral Sullivan paused. 15 years. And in those 15 years, have I ever made a decision that was not in humanity's best interests? No, she admitted. Then trust me now. Jake, I have 3 different alien governments asking if we are planning a first strike against their territories. The Galactic Council thinks we have discovered some kind of superweapon. The stock markets in 40 systems have crashed because traders think war is coming. Jake looked at Peter Yang, who nodded. Kate, Jake said, send me Admiral Brooks from the horizon. I need someone I can trust for what comes next. What comes next? Admiral Sullivan asked. The part where we let everyone else figure out the truth. On Kepler Station, Mediator Veltar was meeting with Supreme Mediator Quintal. Quintal belonged to a species that looked like floating jellyfish made of light. When she spoke, colors flashed through her transparent body. In 3,000 years of Council history, Quintal said, no mediating species has ever abandoned active negotiations. The humans are not like other species, Veltar replied. They think differently. They see patterns we miss. That is exactly what worries me, Quintal said. The colors in her body turned from blue to red. What pattern did they see that made them believe peace talks were useless? Across the galaxy, similar questions were being asked in every language. Intelligence agencies were scanning space for signs of enemy fleets. Military commanders were reviewing their defense plans. Scientists were checking for cosmic threats like gamma-ray bursts or asteroid impacts. Everyone was looking for the terrible secret that had made the humans walk away. On board a small trading ship near the edge of Council space, Captain Rixvin was listening to the news broadcasts. His people were known for being practical and not easily frightened, but even he was starting to worry. First time in 3,000 years, he said to his crew. The humans must know something really bad is coming. Should we head for home? Asked his pilot. No, Rixvin said, but let's stay near the jump points. If something big is happening, I want to be able to run. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the stars. Lisa Hayes found him there an hour later. Sir, she said, the panic is getting worse. Some species are talking about forming defensive alliances. Others are considering preemptive strikes against potential threats. How long do you think it will take? Jake asked. For what, sir? For them to realize we are not running from something. We are running toward something. Lisa looked confused. I do not understand. Jake smiled. You will. We all will. Give it time. In the darkness of space, the truth was waiting to be discovered. But first, the galaxy had to learn to ask the right questions. 3 days had passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy was in chaos. Trade routes were being abandoned. Military fleets were moving to defensive positions. Some species were even considering evacuating their border worlds. Chancellor Colvin had not slept well in those 3 days. His office was filled with reports of panic buying, fleet movements, and emergency government sessions. Finally, he made a decision that surprised even his own advisors. I am going to meet with the humans personally, he announced. His aide, a young female from his species, looked shocked. Sir, that is not proper protocol. The Chancellor does not meet directly with individual ambassadors. These are not normal times, Colvin said. Set up a meeting at the Vega station. Neutral ground. Tell Ambassador Morrison I am coming alone. Alone? Sir? That is very dangerous. More dangerous than letting this panic destroy the galaxy? Colvin asked. 2 days later, Colvin's personal ship arrived at Vega Station. The station was small and simple, used mostly by traders and travelers. It was not the kind of place where important galactic business usually happened. Jake Morrison was waiting for him in a small conference room. With him were Colonel Lisa Hayes and Dr. Peter Yang. They looked calm and rested, which somehow made Colvin more nervous. Chancellor, Jake said, standing to greet him. Thank you for coming. Ambassador. Morrison, Colvin replied. I hope you have good reasons for what you have done. Please sit down, Jake said. I think you will find this conversation very interesting. Colvin sat across from the humans. He had dealt with many human diplomats over the years, but something about Morrison was different. The man seemed completely relaxed, as if the galaxy-wide panic was not his problem. Chancellor, Jake said, before we begin, I want to ask you a question. What do you know about stellar analysis? Stellar analysis? Colvin's ears twitched in confusion. You mean the study of stars? Exactly. Dr. Yang, would you please show? The Chancellor, our survey data? Peter Yang activated a holographic display above the table. It showed detailed information about 3 star systems. Numbers and charts filled the air between them. These are the systems that the Zelthak and Nordians are fighting over, Peter said. Colvin looked at the data carefully. I see standard, survey information, mineral deposits, atmospheric readings, gravitational measurements, nothing unusual. Look closer, Lisa Hayes said. She pointed to specific sections of the display. Focus on the long-term stability reports. Colvin studied the numbers more carefully. He was good with data. You had to be, to run the Galactic Council. But these numbers seemed normal to him. I am sorry, he said. I do not see anything unusual. Jake leaned forward. Chancellor, what do you see when you look at the primary stars in these systems? Normal stars. Some are older than others, but all are within acceptable ranges for supporting planets. Look at the spectral analysis data, Peter said, highlighting different sections. Look at the fuel consumption rates, look at the core temperature readings. Colvin studied the information for several minutes. Slowly, his expression began to change. His ears went flat against his head, which meant he was starting to understand something he did not like. These stars, he said quietly. Their fuel consumption rates are accelerating. Yes, Jake said, the core temperatures are becoming unstable. Yes. They are going to collapse. Within 50 to 75 years, Peter confirmed. All 3 stars will either go nova or collapse into white dwarfs. Either way, the systems will become completely uninhabitable. Colvin stared at the EU data. The mineral rights both sides are fighting for will be worthless, Jake finished. Worse than worthless. They will be deadly. No one can mine minerals from a system with a collapsing star. The room was quiet for a long moment. Colvin's mind was working through the implications. Finally, he looked up at Jake. You walked away because the conflict will resolve itself, he said. We walked away because the conflict is pointless, Jake replied. Why waste time mediating a dispute over territory that will be uninhabitable in a few decades? But the fighting, Colvin said. The ships that have been destroyed, the lives lost. All for nothing, Lisa Hayes said. Both sides are fighting over systems that their own grandchildren will never be able to use. Colvin felt something he had not experienced in many years. He felt stupid. Why did our scientists not detect this? They probably did, Peter said. But they were not looking at the long-term data. Most species in the galaxy think in terms of immediate benefits. You plan for the next few years, maybe the next decade. How long do humans plan for, Colvin asked. Generations, Jake said. We think about what our great-grandchildren will inherit. When we saw that these systems would be dead within a century, the conflict became irrelevant. Colvin stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see stars scattered across the darkness. How many of them were dying too? How many conflicts in the galaxy were being fought over things that would not matter in 100 years? Chancellor, Jake said quietly, this is not unusual. We have been studying galactic conflicts for decades. Most wars are fought over resources that will be depleted or territories that will become uninhabitable within a century. Most wars? Colvin turned back to face the humans. Lisa Hayes activated another display, the Rigel mining conflict of 2387. Both sides fought for 15 years over asteroid mining rights. The asteroids will be completely mined out within 30 years, making the conflict pointless. The Tau Ceti trade war, Peter added. 3. Species spent decades fighting over control of trade routes. New jump drive technology will make those routes obsolete within 50 years. The Proxima Territory dispute, Jake continued. 2 empires have been fighting over border worlds for a century. The worlds are orbiting a star that will expand into a red giant within 200 years, making them uninhabitable. Colvin sat down heavily. How many conflicts like this are happening right now? In Council space alone? 47 active. Wars over resources or territories that will be worthless within a century, Peter said. You are telling me that most of the galaxy's conflicts are fought over temporary problems? Not temporary, Jake corrected. Temporary solutions to permanent problems. Both the Zelthak and Nordians need new territory and resources. Fighting over dying systems does not solve that need. What would solve it? Colvin asked. Cooperation, Lisa said. Joint colonization of stable systems, shared mining operations in asteroid fields that will last for millennia, trade agreements that benefit everyone. But that requires long-term thinking, Jake added, something most species find difficult. Colvin was quiet for a long time. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, some being born, others dying, most simply, existing in the vast space between. The panic, he said finally. The galaxy thinks you detected some terrible threat. We did detect a terrible threat, Jake said. The threat of pointless wars fought by people who refuse to think beyond their own lifetimes. What do you want? Me to do with this information? Share it, Peter said. Give the data to both sides. Let them see for themselves that they are fighting over dead systems. And then? Then let them make their own choices, Jake said. We cannot force species to think in the long term. We can only show them what happens when they do not. Colvin looked at the star charts one more time. 3 systems. Thousands of lives lost. Millions of resources wasted. All for territory that would be worthless before most of the current fighters were dead. I have been Chancellor for 30 years, he said. I thought I understood how to solve conflicts. You understand? How to end them, Jake said. We are trying to understand how to prevent them. Colvin stood up. I need to return to Centauri Prime. This information must be shared with both sides immediately. Chancellor, Jake said as Colvin reached the door. This changes more than just one conflict. I know, Colvin said. It changes everything. As the Chancellor left, Lisa Hayes looked at Jake. Do you think he understands? He is starting to, Jake replied. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy will. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance, caring nothing for the brief lives and shorter conflicts of the creatures that lived beneath them. Chancellor Colvin's ship traveled through hyperspace back to Centauri Prime. During the long journey, he could not stop thinking about what the humans had shown him. 3 dying star systems. Thousands of lives lost for nothing. Wars fought over territory that would be dead within a few decades. When he arrived at the council building, his first action was to call an emergency meeting. Within 2 hours, the great chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. The air buzzed with worried conversation. My fellow council members, Colvin began, I have just returned from a meeting with the human delegation. What I learned there will change how we think about conflict resolution. He activated the holographic display system. The same star charts that Peter Yang had shown him appeared above the chamber. Numbers and data filled the air. These are the systems that the Zelthak Empire and Nordian Republic are fighting over, he said. At first glance they appear valuable, rich in minerals, suitable for colonization, but look more closely. The chamber grew quiet as delegates studied the information. Slowly, understanding began to spread through the room. Delegate Mortek from the Rigel system was the first to speak. Chancellor, these spectral readings show stellar instability. Yes, Colvin said. All 3 stars will collapse within 50 to 75 years. The systems will become uninhabitable. The humans knew this? Asked Representative Findar from the outer colonies. The humans calculated this. They think in terms of generations, not just years. A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Many delegates were checking their own data tablets, running their own calculations. If this is true, said Councillor Vexhai from the Mining Guild, then both sides are fighting over worthless territory. Worse than worthless, Colvin replied. Dangerous territory. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Admiral Kate Sullivan was having her own moment of understanding. She sat in her office on Earth Command Station, reading the reports that Jake Morrison had finally sent her. Dr. Sarah Kim, humanity's chief xenosociologist, sat across from her desk. Sarah, Admiral Sullivan said, how long have we known about this pattern? Which pattern? Dr. Kim asked. Wars fought over temporary resources. conflicts over territories that will be uninhabitable in a few decades. Dr. Kim smiled. We have been studying it for 40 years, ever since we joined the Galactic Council. And we never said anything. We tried to several times, but other species were not interested in long-term analysis. They wanted immediate solutions to immediate problems. Admiral Sullivan looked out the window at Earth hanging in space below them. How many current conflicts could be resolved this way, if species were willing to think beyond their own lifetimes? Most of them. On the Zelthak homeworld, Commander Zexhai was staring at his own copy of the stellar analysis data. His scales had turned a deep blue color, which meant he was thinking very hard. His aide, a younger Zelthak named Kexival, entered his office carrying more reports. Commander, Kexival said, our own scientists have confirmed the human data. The stars in the disputed systems are indeed dying. How long have our scientists known this? Zexhai asked. The data has been available for several years. But no, one thought to look at the long-term projections. Zexhai stood up and walked to his window. Outside, the Zeltak capital city stretched to the horizon. Millions of his people lived and worked there. How many of them had lost family members fighting for those worthless systems? Send a message to the Nordian government, he said. Sir, tell them I want to discuss the future of our peoples, not the past. The future. On Nordian Prime, Counselor, Threnyu was having a similar conversation with her advisors. The blue crystal building where they met was ringing softly in the wind, creating a musical sound that helped people think clearly. Our scientists say the same thing, she told the assembled council. The systems we have been fighting for will be dead before our children reach old age. The humans saw this from the beginning? Asked Counselor Brenko. Apparently yes, they think differently than we do. How differently? Asked another counselor. Threnyi activated a display showing human settlement patterns over the past century. Look at their colony choices. They do not just pick planets with immediate value. They choose systems that will be stable for thousands of years. The council studied the data with growing amazement. Their mining operations, observed Counselor Kelmo, are all in asteroid fields that will last for millennia. Their trade routes connect stable star systems, not just convenient ones, added another. They plan for their descendants, Threnyu said, not just for themselves. Back on Earth Command Station, Dr. Sarah Kim was preparing a presentation that would change galactic politics forever. She worked with teams of human scientists, gathering data on conflicts throughout Council space. We need to show them the full picture, she told her team. Not just one conflict, but the pattern of conflicts. Dr. Ryan Brooks, who specialized in alien psychology, looked up from his research. Most species will find this information disturbing. It suggests that much of their military history has been pointless. Maybe, Dr. Kim said, or maybe it will help them see that cooperation works better than conflict. Admiral Sullivan joined them in the research center. How many conflicts are we talking about? In active war zones? 47 disputes over resources that will be depleted or territories that will be uninhabitable within a century, Dr. Kim replied. And conflicts that ended in the past 50 years? Over 200. Admiral Sullivan sat down heavily. We are going to tell the galaxy that most of their recent wars were fought over nothing. We are going to tell them that most of their recent wars could have been avoided with better planning, Dr. Kim corrected. The news began to spread as Chancellor Colvin shared the stellar analysis data with both sides of the conflict. Commander Zexhai released a statement to his people explaining that the war was being suspended pending further analysis. Counselor Threnyi did the same, but the implications went far beyond one conflict. Captain Ryan Brooks was commanding a survey mission near the Tau Ceti system when he received new orders from Earth Command. His job was to analyze other ongoing conflicts using the same long-term thinking that had resolved the Zeltak-Nordian dispute. Captain, his science officer reported, we have data on the Rigel mining conflict. What did you find? The asteroid field they are fighting over will be completely mined out within 30 years. After that, there will be nothing left worth fighting for. And the species fighting over it? They typically plan mining operations only 10 to 15 years in advance. They do not realize the resource will be gone so quickly. Captain Brooks nodded. Send the data to both sides. Let them decide what to do with it. Similar discoveries were being made throughout Council space. The Proxima territory dispute involved planets orbiting a star that would become a red giant within 2 centuries. The Vega trade war was being fought over routes that new technology would make obsolete within decades. Dr. Sarah Kim's comprehensive report was ready within a week. She presented it to the Galactic Council via subspace transmission from Earth. Honorable delegates, she said, humanity has been studying conflict patterns in Council space for 40 years. We have identified a recurring theme. Most wars are fought over resources that are temporary or territories that will become uninhabitable. The display showed conflict after conflict, each with long-term analysis that revealed their ultimate pointlessness. We are not saying that your peoples are foolish, Dr. Kim continued. We are saying that different species think about time differently. Humans plan for generations. This gives us a different perspective on what is worth fighting for. Representative Findar from the outer colonies asked the question that everyone was thinking. Are you suggesting that most of our conflicts could be resolved simply by waiting? We are suggesting that most of your conflicts could be prevented by planning, Dr. Kim replied. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Chancellor Colvin stood up. Dr. Kim, humanity has just offered the galaxy a new way of thinking about war and peace. The question is, are we wise enough to accept it? The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The Galactic Council established the Temporal Analysis Division, with both human and alien scientists working together to study the long-term implications of current conflicts. For the first time in galactic history, peace was not just about ending wars. It was about preventing them by thinking beyond the immediate future. The humans had not just walked out of peace talks. They had walked into a new era of galactic diplomacy. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy was a very different place now. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Temporal Analysis Station, watching ships from dozens of different species working together in space. The station was built near the edge of Council space, far from any political boundaries. It was designed to be neutral ground where long-term thinking could happen without pressure from governments or military commands. Ambassador, Dr. Peter, Yang said as he joined Jake at the window. The morning reports are ready. Jake turned away from the stars. Good news or bad news? Mostly good. The Rigel mining conflict was officially ended yesterday. Both sides agreed to joint operations in a more stable asteroid field that will provide resources for the next 1,000 years. And the Tau Ceti trade war? Suspended pending completion of the new jump drive technology. The species involved are now working together to develop faster trade routes that will benefit everyone. Jake smiled. It was not the first time that enemies had become partners once they started thinking beyond their immediate needs. Dr. Sarah Kim entered the observation lounge carrying a thick folder of reports. Her hair was grayer now, but her eyes were bright with excitement. Jake, she said, you need to see the latest statistics. How many conflicts resolved this month? 7. But more importantly, we prevented 12 new ones from starting. Prevented. Species are bringing their territorial disputes to us before they turn into wars. They want long-term analysis before they commit to fighting. Jake looked back out at the ships working in space. Some of them belonged to species that had been enemies just months ago. Now they were building joint research stations and sharing resources. Any problems? He asked. A few, Dr. Kim admitted. Some military commanders are not happy about the changes. They think we are making their jobs irrelevant. Are we? No. We are making their jobs different. Instead of fighting wars, they are planning long-term security and helping with colonization projects. On Centauri Prime, Chancellor Colvin was meeting with his senior advisors. The room was filled with charts and displays showing the status of conflicts throughout Council space. Chancellor, his aide reported, we have updates on 43 territorial disputes that were previously classified as active conflicts. How many are still active? Only 8. The rest have been resolved through temporal analysis or converted to joint cooperation projects. Colvin studied the displays. Where once there had been red markers indicating wars and conflicts, now there were green markers showing cooperative projects and blue markers indicating peaceful resolutions. What about the Zelthak and Nordian situation? They have signed a joint colonization agreement. Both species are working together to settle 3 new systems that will remain stable for thousands of years. And their relationship? Commander Zexhai and Counselor Threnyi are personal friends now. They meet regularly to discuss long-term planning for their peoples. On the Zelthak homeworld, Commander Zexhai was indeed meeting with Counselor Threnyi. They sat in a conference room that had been specially designed for both species. The temperature and humidity were carefully controlled to make both comfortable. The evacuation of the old disputed systems is proceeding ahead of schedule, Zexhai reported. Our joint teams have saved over 90% of the mining equipment. Our people are already working together in the new systems, Threnyi added. The children do not even remember that our species were enemies. It seems impossible that we spent so many years fighting over territory that was already dead, Zexhai said. The humans saw what we could not, Threnyi replied. They taught us to look beyond our immediate needs. Back on the temporal analysis station, Captain Ryan Brooks was reviewing data from across the galaxy. His job now was to identify potential conflicts before they became actual wars. Dr. Yang, he called from his workstation. I have a situation developing in the Vega sector. Peter Yang came over to look at the data. What kind of situation? 2 species are arguing over mining rights to a comet that passes through both their territories. Standard territorial dispute? That is what I thought at first. But look at the orbital analysis. Peter studied the data for a moment, then smiled. The comet will be captured by the gravity of a gas giant within 20 years. Making the dispute completely pointless, Captain Brooks confirmed. Have you contacted both sides? Message sent this morning. Both governments are now discussing joint study of the gas giant's moons instead. Dr. Sarah Kim was in her laboratory, working on her latest research project. She was studying how different species thought about time and planning. Her work was helping the Temporal Analysis Division understand why some species adapted quickly to long-term thinking, while others struggled with it. Admiral Kate Sullivan entered the lab carrying a data pad. Sarah, she said, I have the final report on the first 6 months of the Temporal Analysis Division. Good or bad? Dr. Kim asked. Extraordinary. 47 active conflicts reduced to 8, 12 potential wars prevented before they started, over 30 joint cooperation projects initiated between former enemies. Any resistance from military commands? Less than expected. Most military leaders are discovering that preventing wars is more interesting than fighting them. Dr. Kim nodded. It turns out that soldiers prefer building things to destroying them when given the choice. The Supreme Mediator of the Galactic Council, Quintal, was reviewing the same reports in her office on Centauri Prime. The colors flowing through her transparent body were bright blue and green, indicating satisfaction and hope. Her aide, a young council member from the Rigel system, entered with more data. Supreme Mediator, he said, we have received formal requests from 15 species to establish permanent temporal analysis offices in their territories. They want human-style long-term planning integrated into their governments? Yes, they have seen the results and want to apply the same thinking to their own internal conflicts. Quintal's colors shifted to bright gold. In 3,000 years of Council history, we have never seen such rapid improvement in galactic stability. The humans did something remarkable, her aide observed. They walked away from one conflict and accidentally solved dozens of others. I do not think it was an accident, Quintal said. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. On Earth, in the headquarters of the Diplomatic Corps, Jake Morrison's actions were being studied by every negotiation school in human space. His decision to walk away from the peace talks had become a classic example of strategic thinking. But Jake himself was not on Earth. He was still on the Temporal Analysis Station, working with alien scientists to refine their understanding of long-term conflict resolution. Ambassador, Dr. Peter Yang said as he found Jake in the research library. I have a question that has been bothering me. What is it? When you decided to walk out of those peace talks, did you know this would happen? Jake looked up from the reports he was reading. Did I know that half the galaxy would panic and then discover that most of their conflicts were pointless? Yes. Jake smiled. Peter, I knew that both sides were fighting over dead systems. I knew that walking away would force everyone to ask questions. But did I know it would lead to a revolution in galactic diplomacy? No. I hoped it would, but I did not know. So we were lucky? No. We were patient. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to let everyone else discover that it is not really a problem. Dr. Yang looked out the window at the ships working together in space. The galaxy learned something important. What did they learn? That humans do not just fight for their future. They think beyond it. Jake nodded. And now they are learning to do the same thing. 6 months later, Chancellor Colvin stood before the full Galactic Council to give his annual report on peace and security. My fellow beings, he said, I can report that we are living in the most peaceful era in Council history. Not because we have ended all conflicts, but because we have learned to prevent them. The chamber erupted in applause from dozens of different species. We owe this transformation to humanity, Colvin continued, who taught us that sometimes the most profound action is knowing when not to act at all. In the gallery above the main chamber, Jake Morrison sat with his team, watching the celebration. Below, Ambassador, Lisa Hayes said quietly, do you ever regret walking out of those peace talks? Jake looked down at the chamber full of alien representatives working together toward a common future. No, he said. Sometimes you have to walk away from the past to find the future. The galaxy had learned that patience was not just a human virtue. It was a tool for building peace that could last for generations. And it all started when the humans walked out of peace talks, and the Galactic Council finally understood why.